Hello. I'm 003. From the Earth 200 years later. Please subscribe to me. Recently, Huawei sent out a recruiting order for talented youngsters to the world. Just one day later, there was a doctor from Shandong Province who stayed in the United States, and he announced that he would return to China to develop his career, which made the United States very panicked, for according to the Russian media, his return will give China its first victory in the chip sector. Who is this doctor from Shandong Province? Why does he have so much potential? And what are the netizens worried about? Today, we'll tell the story of Shandong's Dr. Changlin, an ugly-looking but pragmatic genius. Changlin completed his undergraduate degree in electronic science and technology from Shandong University in 2013. And when he applied to study abroad, he received many offers from Ivy League universities. But Changlin didn't care about the reputation of the university, but more about whether its semiconductor program was great. Ultimately, it was the semiconductor program at the University of California that attracted him. Having produced several Nobel Prize winners in the field of chips, it was Changlin's dream university. He spent 8 years there, completing his full PhD and postdoc in the university's photonic chip lab. It was also during his studies that Dr. Changlin led his team to successfully complete the mass production of a 200 nanometers wafer microcavity optical freak (NCY) cone. According to informed sources, this technology has reduced the cost of producing chips by about 100 times below the cost of normal silicon optical chips. This is certainly a revolutionary achievement for the chip sector. And this solution has been used 2 years ago by a company in the United States to study mass production. The United States, of course, attaches great importance to such a promising scientist, who is a national treasure, as consumers will be able to buy related products and services within 2 to 3 years. But Changlin surprised them by announcing his intention to return to China. After learning that he wanted to return to China, the University of California even offered various high-quality conditions to keep him. But Changlin was very determined. He said that the development of China's chip sector was very rapid, and the continuous improvement of the chip industry chain also gave him hope. So, he wants to return to China and do his contribution to the development of the chip sector. Because the chip sector in China is still immature, it has also had a short period of time to accumulate technology, and moreover lacks excellent technical talents. Many overseas students choose to stay in the West because of the good laboratory environment there. It is reported that the top 6 of the world's top 100 semiconductor experts are all Chinese, while they all work in the US. This is a huge loss for our chip sector. As a result, China has been stuck by foreign countries in the field of chips. In such an environment, China is in dire need of excellent research professionals, hired at great expense, just to make Chinese chips, and it is expected that this will pull the rise of the chip manufacturing industry. This is the main reason why Huawei CEO Ren Zhengfei wants to recruit talented youngsters around the world. But geniuses who come back from overseas studies are not all good people. In 2001, Chen Jin, a PhD in computer engineering who graduated from a well-known American university, returned to China to develop his career. Because of his glowing resume, and because of his work as a chip designer, he was invited by Shanghai Jiaotong University to be the chief designer of the Hangsing R&D project. Chen Jin also lived up to expectations and in 2003 announced the successful development of China's own chip, Hangsing 1. This tiny chip was said to have 2.5 million sophisticated operating devices stuffed into it. It was the chip with the largest memory capacity and the most sophisticated design in the world at that time. When the news was announced, the whole scientific industry was abuzz. The Chinese people were also abuzz, as their dream of many years finally came to reality. Chen Jin also became a national hero at once. In recognition of Chen Jin's achievements, the state awarded him several honorary titles. To support his further research, the relevant authorities also allocated nearly $1.1 billion in research funds to him. But just 3 years later, a post about Hangsing's shady activities revealed Chen Jin's true colors. It turned out that there was no such thing as Hangsing 1. It was all a Motorola chip that Chen Jin had bought from the US, ground off someone else's label and replaced it with his own brand. Chen Jin was eventually caught out as a fraudster and had all his accolades cancelled. But the $1.1 billion had been diverted and spent by him, and Chen Jin himself fled to the US. The scam was a devastating blow to the Chinese chip industry and hurt the self-confidence of many researchers. It has taken more than a decade of reconstruction since then for Chinese chip research to take off again formally, but technology is developing by leaps and bounds. It has become even more difficult for China to catch up with other countries. And now the Shenzhen affair looks more like a conspiracy again. And it is a common insidious tactic of the US, especially against scientists who want to return to serve their country. Back then, Jian Shuisun was imprisoned for 3 years and even risked his life in order to return to China. Luckily, it took the return of the great man of the 2 bombs and 1 star by many parties to get the Chinese back to China. And then the Chinese were completely revived. Today, the main tool used by other countries to suppress China is the chip. I am sure that Dr. Changlin's return will bring new hope to China's chip industry. Once there is a breakthrough in the field of chips, China's development is bound to be sharp. How will the cautious US agree? Therefore, over these years, the US has frequently assassinated high-tech talents who want to return to China for development. There is a Chinese prodigy called Ren Wei, a mathematical prodigy who got into the University of Chicago in the United States at the age of 15. In 2008, he wanted to return to China to develop his career and use what he had learned to contribute to the country. But to our surprise, on the morning of 16 November that year, his body was found in the University of Chicago chapel. The US police insist that Ren Wei was suffering from depression and committed suicide. However, his classmates and professors said that Ren Wei was normally cheerful and would not have acted in such a way. At this sensitive moment combined with the eve of his return home, many people therefore believe that it is not that simple. But because there was not enough evidence, the genius had to leave in such an unexplained manner. Then there was physicist Zhang Xiaocheng, who also studied in the US for many years and was a professor in the physics department at Stanford University. Even the world-renowned physicist Yang Jining had high praise for him, saying that it was only a matter of time before he was awarded the Nobel Prize. But he also passed away strangely on the eve of his return to China, after an even more unbelievable passage. In September 2018, Zhang Xiaocheng received the European Prize for Physics. On 1 December of the same year, Xiaocheng, Zhang and Meng had dinner together in Argentina. We would venture a guess that they were discussing working together on 5G and chips after they returned to China. However, shortly afterwards, on the day Meng was arrested in Canada, Zhang Xiaocheng jumped off a building at Stanford University in the US. 3 days later, the light passenger plane ordered by ZTE International was burnt down, and China's new development was once again in trouble. And is it a coincidence that the official US version of Zhang Xiaocheng's death was again depression? So, after Changlin announced he was returning to China, netizens were worried about his situation, and some even said they wanted to protect him by reducing news coverage of him. I, however, think that this is wrong thinking, and that we should instead step up publicity so that the world knows about it, so that the US won't dare to make any small movements. Because if there is anything wrong with Changlin, the US is the biggest suspect.